Hello and welcome to Bridge to China, your podcast for better understanding the Chinese ecosystem. My name is Jonathan and I'm part of the ELU network producing this podcast. And in this special feature of Bridge to China, I talked with Lars from Humboldt-Tech Bridge. He's leading the China Market Decoding program, a program for startups looking to enter the Chinese market. And in this context, we talked about the reasons why startups should learn first before entering the Chinese market. Furthermore, Lars introduces how you gain the skills needed and what you get out of this China decoding program. Spoiler alert, you can win the trip to China pitching in front of investors and Chinese corporates. For this reason, Lars also gives you here an insight on what startups they are looking for. So make sure you're applying for application. Please view the show notes and of course have fun listening to this conversation. It's nice to have you here, Lars, in this show. And maybe before we jump in directly on today's topic, my question is, what's your relation to China?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm very happy being here, being on the other side of the podcast. So my relation to China is that I spent more than the last 10 years on many Asia topics, and I recently joined the Humboldt-Tech Bridge to lead their China market decoding program. Yeah, that's a program for the startups. So that's my relation, basically day-to-day business, working together also with our Shanghai office to help German science-based startups to explore their opportunities in the market Far East.
Nice. Yeah, okay, sounds good. And you just mentioned that Bridge to China has many features, and we all know this podcast is one of them. So what is it all about?
The idea is quite simple. So we know that there are scientists and researchers which used to lack in business experience just by nature. They are doctors, they are programmers, and so on and so forth. So if they come up with a great idea which they want to commercialize, they go to the academic startup service and they help them to build up their business, build up their startup. So these academic startup services, they commercialize basically the science. So it means they're bringing the research into the industry through startups. However, they seem to lack in the capacity when it comes to internationalization. Again, it comes by their nature. They're focusing on building up the startups and bring them into industry. But a lot of startups nowadays, they have to scale. We have to follow the globalization procedure. And then research shows that not only German, but European startups, what the first thing, the foreign markets they want to explore, where they want to scale is Europe, then comes US, and then comes China. That's basically the three markets. And these academic startup service, they lack in such programs. And we simply want to make an offer to these academic startup services, especially to these startups from these startup services, to better understand specifically China. There are programs already out there. I think China is a huge market. There can't be enough programs on that. And the thing we help out is we want to make them develop China competences and develop their own networks, and we have various formats to do so. We are very happy actually to have the Berlin universities behind us, supporting us, as well as got great interest from other regions in Germany. So that means, of course, our focus is on Berlin, but we're not limited to Berlin. So we are open for Germany, but to the startups listening, to the science-based startups listening from Berlin. So that's now your bold hint that we are actually really looking for you. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that market expansion is definitely always a challenge, especially when you go to China, where this market is so different than what we're used to have here in Europe or in Germany. Maybe when you say that you help startups gaining these competences, so what is the Bridge to China program all about? So how are you teaching these skills to the startups?
Yeah. So first of all, we have along the ones who follow us on LinkedIn or wherever else on social media, they see that we have these different formats. We had some open seminars, online workshops, we have this podcast, and so on and so forth. So now it comes the Bridge China program, which is a very dedicated, time-limited program. So the first step is we scout for the promising startups. So that means we select the ones. But once we have selected the ones, we give them online trainings. So we already have a lot of experts and mentors on board. And they basically give the startup team some idea what they should know before they're doing business, how they should behave. Usually these seminars are structured in 5 topics. So basics, the legal framework, politics. Then we talk about the business opportunities. What are the challenges, for example, IP protection, and so on and so forth. Business culture. So how do I behave in a meeting? What is normal? What is not normal? And also some broad topics on market entry. How do I realize a market entry? What options do I have? Yeah. And then these startups receive this package of seminars. It will be online, will be distributed over a couple of days, where you just join for 2 or 3 hours a day. In November, this will happen. And then you basically develop your own competences. And then once you have that, you could get also a pitch training. We translate your pitch deck and so on and so forth there. And then in December, we send you on an international stage. So we have our online conference where you have the opportunity to talk to Chinese corporates and investors and basically pitch your startup. We designed this as a competition. So if you are really good and the Chinese audience really likes what you do and they really want to meet you, then we make you a winner of this competition and you can actually win a trip to China.
Yeah, it sounds great. Especially, I think understanding the Chinese business culture is so important. So therefore, I think having this kind of training already before you go to China is very necessary. And especially when you can win a trip in the end, going to China. So maybe you can tell us or the audience what this trip is about, and like, where do you know already where this trip will be in China? Like, what can I visit?
Yeah. So I think everyone understands that the current situation is not really easy for intercontinental traveling. So it's a prediction for now. So first of all, the whole idea is to bring these startups over to China to first learn. Yeah. So what they will do is usually we have certain cities we visit. Well, there will be some events. It could be, for example, Beijing, Shanghai, and Chengdu. They each of the city have a slightly different focus of industry. And each city, there will be an event where we let these startups pitch and network. There will be some cultural experiences. And then this will be basically all organized along a 5-6 days trip. It is not really sure, or not fixed where we go exactly, which cities. We still have to wait until we know exactly when we can travel, what are the travel conditions, and then we can make it fix. But it's quite clear there will be a trip. Once we can travel, it will be an interesting trip. There will be a lot of events. It will be relevant for startups, so that's clear. And we are very happy that we can actually financially support the startups to do so. So what is it financially supporting? That means basically, so there will be no accommodation or logistics costs in China for the startup. So that's what we cover. Also, the flight ticket will be supported. Also, like everyone understands, it's quite hard to predict now how the flight tickets will develop. But the basic idea is that we can offer a trip to a fraction of the cost, which usually businesses or startups have to spend if they do it on their own, and with a far higher quality and with a very good introduction to our network. So that's basically the idea of the trip, to be announced next year.
Okay, great. So it will be a great visit, and I think having this kind of insight. So obviously you can learn a lot about China when you're not in China, but being there, understanding the market, understanding the people is really what I believe will make the startups or whoever is applying successful. Which leads me to my next question that I'm asking myself is like, who are you actually looking for?
I think let me also pick up your last comment on that. It's also about the expectation management. It's when you attend some online conferences, online pitch events, then you get to know people, but it's clear that you will not make your 2 million euro investment round by pitching once online. Also, if you even visit China, then it does not mean that you come back with a book full of contracts and requests. So it means if you engage with Asia in general, China specifically, it takes time. That is the first step we offer. So that's basically the first step you do. And then from there, you develop the network, the customers, maybe the investor base, and so on and so forth. So who are we looking for? Who can apply? Who makes sense for this program? So first of all, our unique selling point is that we focus on science-based startups. So what are these? We define them as the startups which actually originate from academic startup services, or their business model is based on a scientific research. So that's actually can be defined quite broadly, but usually the startups themselves already know if this works or not. We are actually open for all industries, but they must have a potential to scale in Asia. So that commonly leads to certain topics. I mean, you're not trying to sell chopsticks to China. That's quite clear. What usually sells good is everything related to deep tech, hard tech, to robotics, computing, medtech, biotech, basically all the industries where Germany in general is strong. Also like smart manufacturing, industrial IoT, whatever is related to the machinery and equipment industry. So there are a lot of topics which are quite strong in the German market, and these basically also reflected what we see here. The maturity level, so at what stage the startups have to be is open. Logically, it makes most sense if they're already further, if they are already ahead, if they are probably already have first international customers, what makes the most sense, because then the program is most effective, because then we can have immediate action, we can immediately help. If you're at a very early stage, we are still welcoming you, you can still take part in the seminars and so on and so forth, but maybe the pitch event might be not too effective for you. And most importantly, all the startups taking part, they must be up for China. You must have an interest to do so. You must have the motivation. Really, you shouldn't take a seat in a program when you're not really interested in it. You should give the seat then to someone who's really interested in doing this and has the motivation. So that's basically what we're looking. Of course, so from our origin, we are happy to welcome many startups from Berlin. But if you're outside from Berlin, feel very free to apply and talk to us.
Saying application, which is the next point, I think, which is important to know, because you just said that everyone is welcome, but how do I get in? Like, if I'm interested, I want to take part in this program, what do I have to do in order to win this trip in the end?
So first and most importantly, you should apply. should apply until 16. We get the application via the platform F6S, which is probably quite well known amongst the startups. Maybe you can put it later on the show notes here as well, the link. If you're not comfortable with F6S, you can just drop me an email. We also probably put them in the email somewhere so you can find it. You can connect via LinkedIn, or come up with any other creative idea to get in touch with us, sending a pigeon or whatever. So make sure that you apply. There will be a few questions, not really long questionnaire. I think it takes you maybe 10-15 minutes to apply. And then we will shortlist the startups where you think like, okay, that makes sense. We will have a look at them. We think it makes sense for them to consider China. And then we will invite you for an interview, a qualification call. We explain a bit more about the program and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, we select up to 10 startups which join the program. And you go through the program, you pitch on stage, you make sure that you attend all the seminars, you make sure that you really translate all the knowledge you gained, you deliver the best pitch you ever made on our virtual conference. And then and this is then out of your control, out of my control, or out of our control, if the audience believes that this is something they want to hear more about, then you will win the ticket. Yeah, but sometimes it's a bit luck. Certain part is work and well preparation. That's how you win the ticket.
Yeah, sounds promising, and I can just say to all the startups applying, Jayo, you will make it. And yeah, with that, Lars, I just can say thank you for taking the time and for explaining the whole program. And yeah, you heard, like, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Lars. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for having me for this special feature, and I'm really excited for all the new startups, applying startups, and of course also to listening to more of the upcoming normal podcast episodes, since this podcast is quite new.
This was it for today's special feature. Make sure to follow us on all social media channels. For applications, please view the show notes again, and furthermore, I will link you a video from last year's batch so you get a better feeling of the program itself. Have a great day. Ciao.